Welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, the home of satirical saltire. I'm Simon Bridges, aka Peter. This evening we've got a special, in keeping with Keep Prisons Single-Sexed and Women Won't Waste. I've got a special guest from Canada who's joining us this evening. It's Heather. Heather, I would like you to just introduce yourself first of all, and then I'll ask you some questions. So please.
All right. Thank you for having me. So my name is Heather Mason and I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I've been in and out of jail and prison for drug addiction. I was addicted to fentanyl for many years. Since my release, I've been advocating for women in prison. I work for or volunteer for an organization called Canadian Women's Sex-Based Rights in Canada, as well as Strength and Sisterhood Society, which advocates for federally sentenced women, provides advocacy and peer support. And as well, I've been putting on protests with Keep Prison Single Sex. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's great to have somebody that's got an experience that's very rarely heard. So with that in mind, what got you, or what age did you find that you were becoming addicted to drugs or to fentanyl?
So I started smoking cigarettes and drinking when I was around 12, 13 years old, and then I went to weed. And I partied a lot. I took off from home at 16, started hanging out with older people. It kind of escalated, like I was doing coke and ecstasy, etc. And then I tried Percocets when I got my wisdom teeth out at 19. And then I moved on to harder stuff, which were oxys. We used to snort those pills. And that was around until 2012. And that's when I switched to the fentanyl patches, which are way, way stronger. And it was a dragon. Like it was just, I could not get off of them. And that's when my run-ins with the law started. So it's about 26 when I first got my first adult charge. And now I'm 33.
And do you mind me asking how your battle with addiction is going at the minute?
Yeah, so May 8th, 2017 was the last time I've ever done any opiates or any drug like cocaine, crack, meth, any of that. So I'm coming up on 5 years, which I never thought was possible. I'm really proud of myself.
Congratulations, well done. I know that for some it's harder than it is for others. So to get to 5 years when you think yourself that you're not going to be able to do that, it's a big bonus. It just shows you the inner strength that you've got. And talking about inner strength, let's talk to you about how things transpired when you ended up in prison. So I'll open it to you, Heather. Just tell me what your concerns are since what you've seen in prison and to where we are today.
Okay, so I have a lot of concerns. I have the concerns with the transfer policy, but I also have concerns about segregation and how we're locking up drug addicts and people with mental health. So I have a lot of concerns with our entire justice system and incarcerating people. But I first encountered males who identified as women when I was in provincial jail. So provincial jail is like a remand center. It's 2 years less a day. People are waiting to be sentenced. And then we have federal prison, which is 2 years plus a day. So you're doing more than 2 years there. And in 2012, Ontario passed gender identity or expression into their Human Rights Act. And they didn't actually adopt a transfer policy till 2015. And what I noticed there, I actually worked in the laundry job. So I did the men's laundry and I used to be strip searched on the way to work and from work 5 days of the week. So I had to leave range. And the guards would talk to me, and there was a guy across the hall named Chris, and he was a sex offender. And the female guards used to tell me that they would have to strip search him, and he enjoyed it because he would get an erection, and they didn't want to strip search him because they were uncomfortable, but they were scared to speak up because then they would be removed from the women's side and being made to work with men. So then I kind of realized there was something going on, but I thought it was just like these sex offenders were like hiding out, like they had skin beefs or rapes, or and they were just they weren't safe on the men's side. Like I didn't actually realize what was going on. And then when I went to federal, they had passed Bill C-16. So then males who identified as women could transfer into women's prisons, and they lived on compound with us. So they weren't separated from us at all. There was no hormones required, no surgery required. It was just verbal self-ID, whatever they identify as. And there was no repercussions or consequences for them to identify as a woman and not actually be a woman, right? They don't get transferred back to the men's prison once the guards find out, oh, this guy's actually only here because he's serving 15 years for bank robberies and wants to get laid, right? There's no consequences for it. So I noticed that there was issues. And at first I didn't speak about it because I was scared. I was on parole and I didn't want to talk up about it because I was scared of being sent back. I didn't want to go back to prison. So the story of getting me to speak about it was I was actually speaking about my experience in prison and my drug addiction for an organization called the Elizabeth Fry Society. And I won a scholarship for travel and accommodation to Ottawa, Ontario for the Canadian Association of Elizabeth Fry Societies National Conference. And a woman got up and talked about how a prolific serial pedophile groomed her, sexually harassed her, stood outside the bathroom door asking if she was on her period, a bunch of different things. And the women who are supposed to be working for us, federally sentenced women, said, I'm concerned about the transphobia in this room, and you don't need a vagina to be a woman. And I was just so shocked to realize that there was literally nobody that was going to speak up for these women. And that from that day forward, I was like, I don't care about my parole. Somebody needs to speak up, and I'm going to be that someone.
Well done. First of all, well done for being that someone to speak up. Again, I can't believe I'm saying well done for speaking up for something that should be a given. As far as safeguarding is concerned, in Scotland, there's Nicola Sturgeon and our government are trying to introduce the gender recognition reform bill, which allows people to self-ID or allows males to self-ID as females, and without having to go through any transformation, any counselling, or any length of time. It's just on a feeling, basically. So to hear the things that you've experienced and know that these things are happening here and they're happening in other countries around about the world, do you believe that women are under attack?
I do. I don't know what else it could possibly be, because with these policies, they're completely one-sided, and the only people they benefit are males who still have a penis. So like trans women who have had surgery have been incarcerated with us since at least the 80s. And women who identify as men are denied transfer due to overriding health and safety concerns. No kidding, right? So I don't understand what else it could be. There's no objective test here. Anyone is a woman if they say so. So what I'm finding also in Canada is that we have advocates and lawyers that are working for trans people, and they are currently fighting our exemption clause in our transfer policy. So Correctional Service of Canada, CSC, they have an exemption clause that prevents transfers based on overriding health and safety concerns. Some of those are like the security of the institution, whether there's a mother-child program, whether there's sufficient programming for them, right? Like if they're a male sex offender, they're not going to get the male sex offender programming in a woman's prison. So there are 5, I believe, clauses there, and they want that removed. So they want any male who identifies as a woman, regardless of security risk, regardless of the mother-child program, to be able to transfer into a woman's prison. By denying them the transfer, we're actually discriminating against their gender identity. it just blows my mind how nobody can see what they're doing. They're removing all safeguarding. So now women's prisons have to go back to how they used to be, which were men's prisons. Women's prisons are completely different in Canada. And we're going to lose things like the mother-child program. You cannot raise children in an environment that's built for men. We have a specific environment where children are okay in.
Yep. I mean, I can't believe that we're having to have this conversation. It generally fries my mind, the things that I'm having to look at and having to see, because these things in any normal society are the things that everybody goes, well, we can't have that for these reasons. And it's, as you say, you've got these people that are just looking past safeguarding, they're looking past all these issues to try and cater to a feeling of somebody that they might have one day and change the next, or use to their advantage and to the detriment of women. It's taking us back in time by centuries, and for me it puts women in even more of a precarious position than they're already in, being the most targeted statistic anywhere in the world in anything. So I mean, I've got you, just obviously women have got my sympathies, but what can we do to try and make a difference, to try and make an impact, to change something, to raise awareness? What kind of things should we be doing, Heather? Because some of us are new to this. Some of us will hold their hands up and say, I'm learning as I go by the day. So what can I be doing? What should I be looking at to try and make the biggest impact?
Well, the thing that I don't get here is that everyone's ignoring the reason why we want to transfer trans women into women's prisons. And that's because of the male violence in men's prisons. So why are we not fixing the male violence in men's prisons to make them safer for gay men, young men, little men, the trans women who are homosexual that don't want to be in women's prisons at all? None of them are safer. Nothing has been done in the men's prisons. So we're ignoring what the issue is here. Also, I think it's very helpful to have conversations with the people around you, because they're just not aware of what's happening, or they don't believe it. They can't believe that the government would do something like this. So when you have conversations, and I'm always talking. So like anytime I go to like Narcotics Anonymous meetings, anytime I go home for holidays, any stranger, I'm always bringing up the prison thing. But the thing is I don't get a lot of backlash because I shock them. They just can't even process what I'm saying to even come back with something to say to me, right? Because they can't deny what I'm saying, because I was in prison, I experienced it, and I'm now giving you all these stats, right? So I find those conversations help. And also what I found was very helpful over this last year is that we've done 11 prison protests across Canada. And what people need is they just don't know what to do. So they need someone to lead. So I say, hey, I'm doing a protest here at this time, and you can come out and support me, or you can let me protest by myself, basically, right? So that gets them out, and then we meet each other and we build confidence. And then the next protest is bigger. And we were able to do a cross Canada protest in September. So we protested in BC, Alberta. We had 2 protests in Ontario, a protest in Quebec, and a protest in Nova Scotia. That is amazing considering the landmass of Canada. So we've gotten attention that way. We've got more people talking, and that's important because politicians don't care, right? Yep. They're always for sale. You and I can't afford to buy them. So it's pointless. It's like talking to a brick wall, you know?
Yeah, it's those are the thoughts that I've got, obviously, from the Scottish perspective. They are for sale, and we can't afford them. They're bought by richer financially and not morally people that they're bought by, and it doesn't help the little guy like us who are trying our best to do whatever we can to keep things ticking over. Yeah. And having conversations, like you say. If it wasn't for a friend of mine having the conversation with me, I'd have been still floating along, because this is an independence podcast, a Scottish independence. Coincidentally, right, I know that we're sidetracking here, but what's your thoughts in Scotland? Should they be an independent country?
I don't know enough about it. I really don't know.
Right.
I see everyone sharing things, but I'm ignorant to what's going on. And like, I should know, because like I came from Scotland back in the day, like way before my time, my grandma and my great grandfather. So
well,
I should say, sorry,
so,
great grandmother and great grandfather.
well, so anytime you're asked that question in the future, should Scotland be an independent country, the answer is yes, right? Just so that you know, it's just yes. Just that keeps it simple.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Sorry. So get back to the serious the serious issue that we were speaking about. Now, some of the things that you've obviously had to go and speak about and raise awareness about, they would scare the normal person, I would imagine. Is there anything that you would be prepared to share with us? Bearing in mind, I don't want it to be too hard for you. Just something that people should be aware of that they're possibly not, from your experience.
Yeah. So with the prison and the transfers you're referring to?
Yep.
Okay. So there have been pregnancies. There's also been abortions, STDs. Women put in segregation to await blood work to see if they have like HIV or Hep C. There's a woman in the halfway house right now in BC who's pregnant. A woman, an Indigenous woman at the Healing Lodge, is taking out for an abortion. So there's a lot of sexual assaults going on, but there's pregnancies, like condoms are given out, that type of stuff. And what a lot of things are happening inside as well is, so we have men who are looking at like 14, 15 years incarcerated for like bank robberies. And this is pretty blunt, but if you're locked up for that long, of course you're going to want to transfer to the women's prison because there's pussy there. You know what I mean? Of course they want in there. And people don't get that. And what's happening is there's like a lot of toxic, complex, dysfunctional relationships that are happening in there. So they're dating women, which is giving them power and control. And then they can go and sexually harass or assault other women. And the women are going to speak up because there's these cliques that form around these men. And they're scared of ratting because you don't rat in prison, but they're because it's making their time harder.
Yes. So you're stuck in a different situation, and again, it's all due to the presence of a man. That if a man's not there, then this situation never arises. And
yeah,
again, that must be for any women who are in prison, and they've perhaps been the sufferers of domestic violence, or rape or sexual assault, and I suppose some of the safe things that you would think about when you're going into prison, that it's all women, so that's something that's taken out of the way. It's now something that's getting placed directly in your cell.
Yeah,
potentially.
And the security increases that they're asking for, like originally Canada had one female federal prison, right? Just one. And it was here in Ontario. And actually, so women were incarcerated at Kingston Penitentiary. It was a men's prison. They had like a wing. And then the men built the prison for women. And like right away, there was a bunch of inquiries. They wanted it closed. It wasn't fit for bears. 7 women committed suicide in a 3-year period. All but 1 were Indigenous. Like women were not faring well in an environment like that. So that's why they built the 6 regional prisons and made them with like cottages and more privileges and open style and less security, because that is the environment that is better for women who are traumatized and abused, etc. So now with these transfers and to accommodate, we're supposed to increase those security measures. So it's going to be even hard on the women. We already know they don't fare well in that type of an environment, yet we're going back to that type of an environment. Why? Why can't we have LGBTQ wings, not without the, well, without the L, but whatever, on the men's prisons, right? They have room. So what they could do is make like ranges, pods, wings. They still have access to all the other accommodations in the prison. They don't have to be around the men. They can tailor the environment. And then you can protect a larger group of people if you have those and you have the proper programming. And now we're not downloading 100% of the risk of male violence from men's prisons onto women in women's prisons.
Yeah, I mean, again, that makes sense. Everything that you're saying makes sense for, again, for a safeguarding perspective. I'm still of the opinion that you shouldn't be in that position. You shouldn't have to be coming up with alternatives because of somebody else's feeling. But that's just me.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that as well.
It's mental. Again, it's mental. Is how I see it. I was wanting to ask you because I want to pick up on some of the achievements that you've made. Obviously, you're now 5 years clean and sober. Excellent. Again, well done. But you're traveling. Just some of the areas that you mentioned there of places that you were protesting. I mean, Scotland's quite a small country in comparison to Canada. I mean, the landmass that you'd mentioned, the areas in which you're covering. How are you doing that? How's that been funded? Is it online, or are you actually traveling to places? Tell us a bit more about it. I'm interested to know.
Yeah, so I have a fundraiser up because obviously, like, I cannot afford to be traveling and getting the signs and stuff. So a lot of people all over have donated to me, which is really cool. So we bought like signs, and then also transportation, gas, etc. But I went to BC in the summer. I went to Alberta in September, and then when we did the actual protest in September all across Canada. Obviously, I couldn't be at all the protests at the same time. So I did buy signs for all the provinces. That was a pretty big cost. But also I used the money from the fundraiser to do a study, well, like research on the women that were incarcerated in Canada. So asking them, I sent them a survey asking them questions about like their mental health, the impacts on safety and security of the institution, and got back a bunch of answers from them and actually put the study out that says like how many had an incident happen. And then we also, Gender Dissent put out infographics for me with comments that I had received back from the surveys of the women across Canada. So I paid them an honorarium to give me, because like I'm asking them for some pretty intimate details, right? So
Right.
So yeah, the fundraiser has been helping everything because obviously I was in school, so as a student working part-time, like I cannot afford that. And then that's another thing with all of this is the cost to be able to, we don't have the funding to be able to do what we need to do to raise awareness and gather attention from people.
Right. So just on what you've said there, all of the information that you've got, if you want to share the details with us, I'll put it through this podcast so that it's flashing all that information through as we're speaking.
Okay.
And it's given more audience for your information. And send me the link to your fundraiser also, and I'll put that through as well so that people know where to go to try and help you out, because being an activist isn't for everyone. It's not everybody can stand up and speak. It takes a lot of people think it takes courage. It's something that everybody's got within them, but some people just find it hard to discover that. And once you do it, it then helps you to grow a bit, I feel. So for doing it, well done. You've also got to fund yourself. You've also got to look at everything that's manageable by cost as well. So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate
Thank you.
the message that you're trying to send, and it's a very important message. So if there's anything that I can do personally to help that, then once obviously we finish recording by email, just send me what you've got, and I'll flash it all your parts through here, just so that it gives all your information, and it gives the biggest chance of reaching a wider audience. What can we expect to see or hear from you? Or not necessarily people in Scotland, but people in Canada, and well, hopefully people in Scotland, because I'll be retweeting any future stuff that you've got also. So I'll be keeping this side of it, my side, notified of what you're doing. But what can people round about you be expecting to see in the near future?
I'm planning a protest, and this time I'm actually going to protest in my home city. And there's a reason for that, and that's because I was born and raised there. I got in trouble there. I was a drug dealer there. So the police and the media are well aware of who I am. Same with everyone in the city. So I have all my friends, family, and tons of support there. So I feel like I could get a pretty big crowd. And go to like the jail, and then like go to the police station and go to City Hall. Like it's going to be pretty hard for them to ignore me. So I'm planning on doing that. And also I can also raise awareness about what's been going on in the jail in Sarnia. I was incarcerated there before, and I've lost my son's father and some friends to suicide in that jail since COVID. Yeah, thanks. It was, I knew something bad was going to happen eventually. Like you can't save everybody, but still doesn't make it hurt any less. I really want to raise awareness about how they're treating people, especially during like these lockdowns with like no programs and supports and isolation. So I think it would be a good idea to protest there. But it's hard to say what we're going to do with all these lockdowns with COVID, right? So it's really hard to plan right now, but I am going to be doing more ATIPs to collect data. Hopefully just raising more awareness. Pop-ups, the Women in Cause Bar have been really great with their pamphlets, flyers, and pop-ups. So hopefully we can do some of those.
Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to that's maybe sponsoring you in some way, or really backing you? Just go ahead.
Yeah, so definitely Canadian Women's Sex-Based Rights, We the Females, Women Matter Canada, Gender Dissent. They're all Canadian organizations that fully support me and have my back, which is awesome. They're awesome women and I love them.
Well, it's been very informative hearing you speak, very inspirational. Keep up doing what you're doing with your motivational speaking, because although it's activism, you're motivating people to be active. So keep doing what you're doing. And if we can help you, if I can help you with anything, with additional broadcasts or what have you here, then just give me a shout. I'll be happy to get behind you. And if you send me that information, I'll put it all through the podcast. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining us. And I'm going to say good night to everybody in Scotland, because it's night time almost here. And enjoy your lunch or dinner. It must be about that time in Canada, Heather.
Yes.
So if you want to say goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening, and follow me on Twitter or even Facebook. It's Heather Mason. Thank you.
So thanks for Cinnamon Bridges, for Satirical Salter, for Heather Mason, and we'll say good night.